This is Partners in Crime with Adam Croft and Robert Daws.
Hello, welcome to episode 135 of Partners in Crime.
Good grief, Here we go. We say that every week. We're getting older by the second. And probably most of our listeners are too. But having to listen to this... That
is how age and time work, Bob, yes.
Well, it is. Well, probably listen to this is enough to age anyone. But anyway, yes. Have you had an exciting week?
Not really, no. I mean, I was going to say we're older than we would have been because we're recording this a little bit late this week.
Yes,
due to various different scheduling issues, as does sometimes happen. But yeah, no, I've had a pretty okay week, a busy one. Been getting the final edits done on my next book and various other bits and bobs, appointments and things, and trying to work stuff around schooling and pickups and drop-offs and what have you. Nothing majorly exciting, though. No. How about you?
No, do you know what? It's been quite relaxed, really. I've just been finishing off bits and pieces of writing, which I've enjoyed, doing a bit of research, which I've enjoyed, and that's just about it, really. Watching television. Isn't Andy Nyman good in Unforgotten?
Very good.
Isn't he? It's a smashing performance. I think it's really that sort of character can be very hard to capture, and he's actually sort of, they're all terrific, but they really caught that character very well indeed. It's the first time I've really seen Andy Nyman in anything, and
he's very good at audiobooks as well.
Yes, so I believe. Yeah. Well. So anyway, I'll tell you what, I'm going to kick straight off, if that's all right, with Bobo's Kobo Book of the Week.
Because you know you'll forget otherwise.
I will forget otherwise, but I'm not going to forget this because it's a book by the terrific Alison Bruce, who I met the year before last, and is a terrific writer, and I heard her speak. And she has got a new book out on Kobo this week. So a little bit about Alison. Alison Bruce's first novel, Cambridge Blue, which came out in 2008. 208. I
was going to say, she's been knocking around the while, hasn't she?
Hello, there's the Romans outside. It was described by Publishers Weekly as an assured debut and introduced both Detective DC Gary Goodhue and her trademark Cambridge setting. She went on to complete the DC Goodhue series with a further 6 novels before writing her first standalone psychological thriller, I Did It For Us, in 2018. Her work has attracted both critical acclaim and loyal readership. In 2013 and 16, Alison was shortlisted for the Crime Writers Association Dagger in the Library Award, and in 2017 she was longlisted for the 3rd time. Alison's most recent Goodhue novel, Cambridge Black, was published by Little Brown in February 2017. Mystery people have said a first-class writer, complex and intricately plotted. This is a fascinating mystery. And her next book, The Moment Before Impact, will be published in October 2020. So it was published last October, but it is available on Kobo. You heard it here last. This week, Alison teaches creative writing and is a Royal Literary Fund Fellow at Anglia Ruskin University, Cambridge. So that's posh for you. Anyway, the book that's out this week, which we strongly recommend you downloading and enjoying, is The Moment Before Impact, which I just mentioned. Here's a very quick synopsis, which we, as Adam likes to say, we like reading out the blurb, but that's what blurb is for.
Go on then.
An evening out... I was just pausing for dramatic effect. For God's sake, I'm going to pause for dramatic effect again. Yeah. An evening out... Oh, for fuck's sake. An evening out for 5 students ends in tragedy. With 2 dead and 1 critically injured, Nikki Waldock survives, but her life is left in tatters. Years later, a sighting of Jack Bailey, the brother of her dead friend, leaves her with a shocking realisation about the night of the accident. Helped by former journalist Celia Henry, Nikki sets out to learn the truth about what really happened, and discovers a series of lies and dangerous secrets that have distorted everything she thinks she knows. In uncovering the tangled truth of what happened that night 3 years ago, Nikki must decide who she can trust and who is about to kill again, and she realises that everything can be saved or lost in the moment before impact. Well, there we are. It sounds absolutely terrific. A great writer. Get into her Good Hugh series, which is absolutely excellent. I have read 2 of those, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I haven't read The Moment Before Impact, but it comes very, very, very strongly recommended. And starts with a car accident, which reminds me of this week's episode of Grace. The 2-hour drama that was Grace, which has been highly critically acclaimed and without any surprise from anyone at Partners in Crime, it has to be said. But anyway, Alison Bruce, The Moment Before Impact, available on Kobo now. How could I get that if I really wanted to get it, which I really do?
Well, I would strongly suggest that because Kobo sponsor Partners in Crime, they are one of the world's largest ebook retailers after all.
They are indeed.
You could claim a massive 90% off of your first ebook purchase from Kobo. Boom.
Wow, okay.
You don't need...
Are you going to drop your mic in a minute? Are you going to do a mic drop?
Oh, right, I see. With the boom, yes. Yeah, I could. You don't need an e-reader.
Sorry.
An e-reader or special device. You can even read on your phone or tablet if you wish. Just head over to kobo.com and enter the promo code CRIME at the checkout. If you're an existing customer and you've already claimed that code before, then follow the link in the show notes and use the promo code PARTNERS to get 40% off of selected ebook purchases from now until forever. How about that? Right.
Oh, it's like a fairy tale, Kobo.
It is, isn't it? Constant joy they bring to us. So you were talking briefly there about Peter James. We may as well, hadn't we? Oh, you're getting rid of your notes. Okay.
I'm getting rid of my notes. Decluttering.
Talking about Peter James and Grace, which was on, of course, earlier this week. Was it Sunday?
It was indeed Sunday at 8 o'clock, between the hours of 8 and 10.
Yes, I didn't watch it live. I watched it afterwards, so that's why I got a bit confused. But, yes, we've been talking about it quite a lot in the build-up to that launch. I've been very excited about it, and I don't know about you, Bob, but I was very relieved at how well it was received. It made us not look stupid for hyping it up beforehand.
No, it's lovely when that happens every once in a while, isn't it? You know, we don't look stupid. No, I mean, I thought it absolutely delivered. I mean, it's a hell of a job to actually adapt a book, and as I said last week rather inarticulately, Peter does write thick books which are not thick at all. They're incredibly intelligent books, great storylines and research. To actually just make that into 2-hour drama is tremendously difficult. But the thing is, they are 2 different things. They may tell basically the same story, not basically the same story, although I noticed there were some adjustments for the television adaptation, as indeed there were when it was adapted for the play. But you can enjoy both. You can, the book. Just because I'd seen that, it wouldn't stop me reading the book for a single second. I think because the book gives so many other pleasures which a television drama can't, because it has its own little treasure trove of joys to give you. Not least of all, you can actually see those wonderful Brighton locations and the South Coast locations and everything else that television can do, and you have performances as well. It's not just characters imagined in your mind. So yeah, I mean, it was great, absolutely smashing. And I also watched the last episode of Bloodlands, which was its competitor on BBC One. I got that on catch up, which was very. I mean, it's actually got critically not welcomed. Certainly not. To the point that the Peters programme was, but I have to say I thought it was very well done. The last episode in particular was very good, and I hear that it has got another second series.
Good.
It's been greenlit for a second series. Quite interestingly, because there was an article by Jen Mercurio that came out on Sunday knocking the BBC and saying that that a lot of the people in his world at the BBC he accused of being work shy. And various other things. It was swiftly followed the next day by an article with Jen McEwen saying how wonderful the BBC were, and isn't it great that they've actually greenlit another series? Although apparently his other gripe was that they haven't greenlit the final series of Line of Duty, and he's always said that. Well, not always. I suppose halfway through the writing of it, he's said that 7 will actually complete the whole canon of Line of Duty.
I can't see that they wouldn't.
No, I can't see, but he was obviously a bit peeved that it wasn't a given at this point. But anyway, there we are. That was quite interesting to see the different PR machines relating to Jed's comments and how everything swiftly changed within 24 hours.
Yes, yeah, very interesting.
Thank goodness. That's a positive note, isn't it?
On Grace, we weren't the only people who loved it, actually. Lucy Mangan in The Guardian was effusive in her praise. She's talking about John Sim. She said, for viewers, he turns up and you just believe him. You know he's an actor. You've seen him play loads of different parts with the same face and everything. Yet you accept him in the new without a moment's hesitation. It is sorcery, really. Lucy Mangan discovering acting for the first time.
Well, very good. Well, I'm sure Harry's got a marvellous face. I use about 6 or 7 in any given week. But yes, you're quite right.
That's your actor's repertoire, though, isn't it, Bob?
That's what acting's about. But I have to say, terrific performances. Johnson was great. But I tell you who I really, there are 2 actors who get my Actors Awards of the week, actually. Apart from Andy Nyman, which we've already mentioned, who's superb, but for her performances in Unforgotten and Bloodlands, there's Susan Lynch, who was absolutely terrific, giving 2 very, very contrasting faces to the characters she's playing. And I have to say, my male actor of the week is the marvellous, and I haven't seen enough of him over recent years. I'm sure he's been working flat out, but I haven't been able to catch him. Is Lorcan Cranich, who gives a smashing performance in Bloodlands, and so there we are.
Bobo's
John Sim,
actor
Susan
of the week.
Lynch. Well, 3, yes. John Sim, Lorcan Cranich, and Susan Lynch.
There we go. We've got to start getting trophies made up, aren't we? So On Grace, second book in the series, Looking Good Dead, is due later this year for television, and of course, highly expected that will be successful too. And we should, at this moment in time, because we've got to do it earlier, mention our wonderful patrons who help support Partners in Crime. They are wonderful, essentially. We had a message from one this week. Karen McLean, who got in touch last week, has replied to you, Bob, through the medium of Partners in Crime. It's a slow way of communicating, but I'm happy to pass on the message. She says
it beats the Ouija board.
Carrier pigeon might be quicker, but there we are. She says you wanted, well, actually maybe not, because she says you wanted to know about the weather where we are. I live in Bothwell, which is a village beside the River Clyde, south of Glasgow. I don't know how long a pigeon would take to get there, I must admit. And she says she's had to wait until now to be able to say the sun shone briefly this afternoon when she sent this last week, in between the pouring rain, wind, thunder and lightning and even hail we've had all week. So glad to see Glasgow hasn't changed since I was last there.
Well, no, they do get it, I must admit. And since there's been this change in the North Atlantic drift or whatever it is, I mean, I've noticed, looking at the weather, that the West gets considerably worse weather and the North gets considerably worse weather than we do here in the mild and predominantly balmy East. So, yeah. But that's lovely. But anyway, despite the weather, it sounds like a lovely spot that she lives in. Anything by a nice river. What did you say, to the south of Glasgow? Very nice. Very nice indeed.
Yeah, beside the River Clyde. Just the south of Glasgow.
Yes, well, that's never far from Glasgow.
The Clyde Bank.
Clyde Bank.
Yes.
Right, so we've got another message, you say?
Well, only really from me, because we're talking about hello to our patrons.
That's cheating.
Patrons get, amongst other things, a free book of the month every month, courtesy of Kobo. This month, it is The First Lie by Virginia King, which is the first book in the Secrets of Selkie Moon series. Set in Hawaii, the ghosts of Selkie's past come knocking. 33 years ago, she lost her mother. Then she began to feel invisible things, so her stepmother shut her in the bathroom until they were gone. She's now reclaiming her birth name and has escaped her controlling family to rebuild her life in Hawaii with some quirky new friends, but her refuge begins to unravel until she's running from something else entirely. So you can get that completely free of charge if you are a Patreon subscriber. It's usually $3.99, by the way, but yours completely free if you're on either the middle or the higher tier. So there we go. Patrons not only get that free book of the month each month, but they get early access to every episode of Partners in Crime in full HD video, I will have you know. They also get access to the bonus episode that we record every week, Partners in Crime, Arsenic and Old Lace. Shout out on the show in the week you join, and lots of other stuff, including, actually, I noticed this week, chipping in, our very own Moriarty, who started a regular diary of Moriarty's musings, which are, I would say, abusive.
Yes.
Towards us, I would say, is probably the main tone that Moriarty appears to be going for there, but very, very funny. So if you are a patron, that's all in your Patreon dashboard, or if you would like to join and help support the show, then you can follow the link in the show notes or go to patreon.com/Partners in Crime podcast. There we go. Shall I get onto some news before my voice gives up? Because I can feel a frog developing in my throat.
Yes, I'll sit on the bench while you crack on.
Thank you. Harlen Coben.
Maybe not.
Harlen Coben has been talking to the Irish Times, which I read from cover to cover every week. He sold an estimated 75 million books. I suppose you have to estimate it at that level, don't you? It takes ages.
Poor love. How does he manage?
I don't know.
No idea. Oh, God, what a burden.
He's writing novel number 33, or just has done. His advice for anyone who cares to ask, it says here in the Irish Times, is if it produces pages, good. If it doesn't produce pages, bad. He's produced many pages during the course of his career because his 33rd novel is out now, just come out literally on Thursday. He recently added streaming media to his portfolio in the form of a 14-project deal with Netflix, a couple of which we've already seen.
Yeah.
He says he's no good at writing in the house, which is why he suffered a bit through lockdown, but he's better now. He's had to be, I guess. He says we'd take the kids off to their schools, then you'd find a coffee shop or a library or any weird place. I keep changing places, he says. Most writers have a set routine, a set place. My routine is not to have a routine. In fact, while one of his sons was in high school, he spent 6 months writing at a grocery store deli counter with a coffee stand next to it. He says, I came home smelling like olive loaf, but the pages were good. He's, in fact, his new book is a spin-off from his existing series. The title character in the new book, Windsor Horn or Lockwood III, is known as the sidekick to Myron Bolitar in Harlen Coben's series that started in 1995. In a new book, Wynne acts as a rich vigilante untangling a murder mystery that has ensnared his extended family. It's peppered with Coben's customary bombshells and surprises, from dark secrets to a fearsome gangster who's lost his taste for revenge. And that page-turning special something that keeps readers up too late, say the Irish Times. So that's Wynne by Harlen Coben. That's out now.
What a great phrase. The pages are good. I've not heard that before. Right?
Even if you smell of olive loaf, which I don't think is a bad thing either, to be honest.
I wish I'd quite happly have olive loaf pour homme sprayed over.
I wish you smelled of olive
parts
loaf
of my
too, Bob.
anatomy. just pour a pot of olive oil over your head and you'll be fine. So, that's great. Yeah, the pages are good. I'm going to remember that. Yeah, and
not that you ever get to say it.
No. Well, if I do, very rarely. So anyway, have you got more news? I've
got loads this week actually. You know, sometimes when you reading through the news and you see a headline you didn't expect to see. I certainly didn't expect to read this headline out on Partners in Crime, but the headline of this article, which was in the Daily Record up in Scotland, Peter May says paintings hidden in his garage from the Nazis inspired thriller. That's not a headline I expected to read out.
Well, no, I'm slightly lost for words. Come on, what a mystery.
Wow, here we are.
Pray do tell.
It's basically exactly what it says. According to the Daily Record, while wandering around an exhibition about where the art evacuated from the Louvre was hidden during World War II, author Peter May got the shock of his life. For in a display showing the French buildings where the most priceless artworks on the planet, including the Mona Lisa, were squirreled away from the Nazis, was a small black and white photo of his garage. Peter's jaw hit the floor, it says, when he learned the wedding feast at Cana by Veronese and the coronation of Napoleon by David had both been stashed away in the outhouse of his home in the south of France. The writer of the Lewis trilogy, who made the incredible discovery several years ago, has used the hidden artwork as the backdrop for his latest thriller, The Night Gate, which is out now, also came out on Thursday. He lives in the south of France, not far from there. And essentially, what happened is almost all of the most valuable paintings and artworks stolen by the Nazis in the invasion of Paris in 1940 ended up in the south of France, which of course was then German occupied anyway. Most, including the Mona Lisa, were housed in the nearby Chateau de Montal, but because it wasn't big enough to hold everything, other paintings were stored in smaller buildings in the area. And Peter says, to my astonishment, when visiting the exhibition, I found myself staring at an old black and white photograph of a building I own, a double garage with an apartment above it that I was in the process of converting into my personal creative workspace. So it's actually where he does his writing. I think my video is playing up here, but hopefully you can still hear me.
You've frozen. I'm quite animated over
That's
here.
okay.
In contrast to your rather.
Main thing. Let me switch.
That's it. I was thinking of. You look vaguely stuffed there.
I do tend to. But yeah, Peter grew up in Glasgow. Now lives in south of France. He was actually planning to write a novel set in the Arctic when COVID-19 struck. He planned a trip to Svalbard, the Norwegian archipelago in the Arctic Ocean, and that was cancelled. He couldn't go and couldn't do his research. So he had a publication deadline and no book, but he recalled that some friends of his had mentioned when he told them this story about the looted Nazi artwork in his garage, that it would make a good book, and he recalled that, and he actually sat down and started writing it. He brought Detective Enzo McLeod out of retirement, and the book, it says, sees the competing egos of Hitler and Goering setting their own art hounds on separate missions to procure the Mona Lisa. So, a great thriller, The Night Gate by Peter May. That's out now, and what a brilliant story behind that. When someone says what influenced this book, most of us go, well, yes, this, that, and Peter, he can just sit back and spark up a cigar and go, let me tell you a story.
Well, I think that's an extraordinary thing. I mean, for the first part of what you were saying there, I had this image, and I was trying to get. There's no reason why I shouldn't have been this, but I had this image of a garage next to a house in Glasgow. And this juxtaposition of actually thinking, good grief, the Mona Lisa's been in this, and of course it's in south of France, yes. But it's a bit Del Boy, that, isn't it? I mean, you can actually Del Boy. Yeah. You'll never guess. Come down the garage, mate. I'll show you. I've got your Mona Lisa. I've got a big lump of cement by that Rodin, I think, and a load of lilies by Monet. I mean, take your pick, mate.
That's a wonderful Glasgow accent, I must say.
Well, it's certainly a very poor impersonation of Del Boy, but there we go. So what a fascinating story.
I know. Okay. What a background to a novel. How many of us can claim anything like that?
Now, I have to say, I'm putting on my serious face now, and we're going to address a subject which we've addressed before, but it's sadly very apropos this week. Libby Purvis wrote an article in the Times this week, which was headlined, "TV is obsessed with violence against women. The death of Sarah Everard highlights how common it is for sexualised murder to be served up as screen entertainment." She says, "Assaulting anyone verbally or physically is wrong. We also know it is disgraceful that many women and young girls suffer harassment, stalking, groping, threat and insult in public places and sometimes at home. We all shake our heads, yet meanwhile a whole industry of commercial sexual fantasy profits from depicting the abuse and murder of women. I do not just mean hard porn. We know its perils, and that in school playgrounds little boys not yet into puberty may see on friends' phones brutalities their parents can barely imagine. We know that only the most explicitly illegal sites will ever meet punishment. But for now, I mean something softer, peddled by respectable institutions and BAFTA winners." She's talking about television adaptations and how the focus for many crime thrillers in the past, I have to say probably not so much now, thank goodness, has been that aggression against women. Although, I have to say, looking at the television I've been watching recently, which includes such programmes as we've mentioned, Grace, Bloodlands, I'm watching Your Honour, Unforgotten. None of those carry out those sort of assaults on women, or have the females as the victims. I'm not saying that women don't die, but they are killed for different reasons. Adam Ledler in The Critic has written an article which he says the fictional femicide reflects, perhaps even feels like, wide misogyny. Crime writing is dominated by female authors, he says, yet many rely on murdered women and girls as a story engine. Once dead, the victims' corpses or remains are often fetishized. Joan Smith, the critic and crime writer, says, there was a period when a lot of crime books looked like a competition to murder someone in the most gruesome way. One had someone tying a live woman to a dead woman, and I just stopped reading instantly. These stories, he suggests, commit the worst of literary crimes. They are boring. These stories commit the worst of literary crimes. They are boring. I repeat that. We've done serial killers. Hannibal Lecter is an unbeatable fictional creation. So why then does so much crime writing, meaning police procedurals rather than spy thrillers, follow such regimented lines? Partly because dead women are an easy plot device. Why bother with a storyline around, for example, a corrupt politician, a terrorist cell, or rogue scientist, when you can detail the demise of a woman or child in gruesome detail, then put a cop on the trail? To summarise, he says, as much as you can in this, this is not a call for censorship. Writers must be free to create and tell whatever stories they want, and publishers to publish them. But crime novelists can do better. In 2018, writer and editor Bridget Lawless founded the Staunch Prize, something we've talked several times about on Partners in Crime, for the best crime novel or thriller in which no woman is beaten, stalked, sexually exploited, raped or murdered. Lawless rejected criticism that the prize ties the hands of crime writers or seeks to censor them. There are many more exciting things to write about than fishing a dead woman out of the river, she says. Many readers, Lawless adds, do not want to read such gruesome material. I'm looking forward to reading Safe by Jane Addams, about the feisty, tough teenage daughter of an organised crime boss who turns the tables on her father. Rising star thriller writers such as Chris Orty, author of Deep State, and Judith O'Reilly, author of Curse the Day, all get the balance right. Their female characters fight for their lives when they have to and leave their would-be killers flat on the floor behind them. So, in the light of the last week's tragic news, this has obviously come to the head again. And I know where I stand, and I know where you stand. We've said it before, and I perceive, certainly in the books that I've been reading over the last year, and certainly the television programs. I mean, the last really gruesome serial killer type thing that I saw was The Fall, a psychopath killing women, which was hugely distressing. But of its kind, it was very successful. But I feel that there is a move away from this with crime writing, and certainly on television, as we've given the examples of this week's UK television affair, as I just have. What are your thoughts?
Well,
I don't. Not just you. I'm be interested to hear what. Very interested to hear what our listeners think about this, and how their tastes are, and what their views on this, the representation of females and
it's something that gave me
crime fiction.
Great cause for reflection, actually. And I last week sort of thought back to my own books, and I thought, okay, how are things represented there? Because it's not something that I've consciously kept in mind when I've been writing over the years, and I was quite relieved actually to find that I think I've more than got the balance okay. I can't think for the life of me any books where women have been killed because they're women. Of course, in 30 odd books there are women who have been killed, there are women who haven't. In most of the books where there are lead detectives, they're usually women. In the Night in Culverhouse series, we've got Jack Culverhouse, but other than that, Wendy Knight's a female lead. I've got Caroline Hills as a female lead in my Rutland books, and I think I've got the balance okay. I hope I have. It's I agree it is. I don't, just from a crime writing point of view, I think it is lazy just to have men killing women because they're women. I think it's just regardless of of any kind of gender rules or guidance on that front. I think actually it's just lazy writing. I don't think the gender really should come into it, but it's definitely something that I've had reflection on and that I've thought about, and I made sure that I'm doing these things in the right way and not falling foul of those mistakes which are quite rightly being pointed out now.
I suppose in one way there's all the difference between holding a mirror up to nature and depicting the world as it can be, because obviously, as we've tragically seen this last week, this is a very big problem, and
it's something we don't want to lose. We don't want to lose that ability to hold that mirror up and highlight the issues in society, which is what writing is for, what crime
and a lot of the best crime writers who do deal with this sort of things I do think have managed to do that. I suppose really what it's saying is, this can't be entertainment. You can't just write gratuitous violent scenes against women and think that that's right, or think that it's there just to titillate or just to as I say, just be entertaining. I think those days have gone, thank goodness, and I think really that's being embraced and has already been embraced by creators of crime fiction and murder stories. Probably not so much in the documentary world. The true life crime series, seems to be obviously obsessed with that, and maybe that's another conversation. We're just talking
that's something we've covered before,
fiction.
isn't it? That whole crime for the sake of voyeurism, I guess. And the true crime documentaries and focusing on the killers rather than the victims, and I guess it all falls under that same umbrella. Crime and murder as voyeurism.
Well, it's good. It's good to know this is still, sadly that it's still needs to be talked about. But I think these articles that are coming out now, I thought of, are very, very good and very needed. So anyway, that's a serious little a bit there and much needed. Have you got anything with a little more levity?
Yeah, well, something brief and good that we can end on. Something positive is the news that the Theakston's Old Peculier Crime Writing Festival is set to return to Harrogate.
Yes, that's what we like to hear.
The event should run at the Old Swan Hotel.
In the flesh, you mean?
From July the 22nd to the 25th is the plan. Cutting it fine. It's going to be tight, but they hope the festival will be able to go ahead live, and they're adapting operational plans to ensure this can happen in a safe and COVID-secure way. That's the news this week on the Harrogate Festival. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. And
the festival's return. And how lovely that is. And for writers alone, let alone readers. So great. Well, that's great news.
Are you planning on attending, Bob? Do you think? Or
if I can, I might be a little. Would you believe after a year of very little, there might be work on the horizon over the summer. So I might be elsewhere. But if I can, I will be on that train to Yorkshire, and it's a fantastic festival, and you get to meet the most extraordinary writers from all around the world. They really are fantastic. So that's a date in my diary, and one I hope I can meet.
Well, online festivals are great, but you don't get the bar, do you? I want to go to the bar.
You don't get to the bar. Nice try, but no cigar. I think I think the festivals that have adapted during this strange time and have gone online have done a fantastic job. They've managed to get the technology, understand the technology like you do, and make it work. But there's nothing quite like being in the same room or being in the same bar or
same former garage.
Ian Rankin bought me a pint. He hasn't, or did he? I think he might have done actually when I met him in Edinburgh. I take that back. I think he did.
I think what you mean, Bob, is you bought him one, and he now owes you the next round.
No, do you know
that's
what?
The way you do things.
I think he bought me. In fact, I know he did. He bought not just me. He bought a round, and It was a delicious pint. Anyway,
I
yes.
haven't got the name drop alert on our new software here, unfortunately.
No, don't you see? I must have known that. But anyway, don't expect just because you turn up that Ian's going to buy you a pint. It was
money left now. He's bought you all those rounds last time.
Bob's ranking pint.
Bob's rank pint. Right, we're going to go and do Arsenic and Old Lace now, our after show. So if you are a patron, then head over to your dashboard and watch that. If you're not, then what do you know? You can watch all the old episodes of Arsenic and Old Lace, going right back to when we started doing it about over a year ago now. There we are.
Or you can get yourself a life and not do that. But coming back to Arsenic and Old Lace, I will be announcing this week's, and I like saying this one, it's even better than the first one, Bobo's Kobo Audio Booko of the Weeko. So if you want to know what that is, tune in to Arsenic and Old Lace coming to you shortly.
Right, there we go. Boom. Are you done? Should we do Arsenic and Old Lace?
Oh, I thought Boom. Yeah. Oh, yes. No, I thought. Is that? Are you ending on Boom? Good.
No, I was going to say let's go and do Arsenic and Old Lace, even if I can say it properly.
You see, I thought Boom was the end of the episode. We've gone on for nearly another 20 seconds now.
It can be. I was going to say let's have some fun, but okay, I can.
Well, why don't we just go Boom together after three? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Boom. That wasn't together.
Partners in Crime was presented by Adam Croft and Robert Daws and produced by Adam Croft. The theme tune was by the Caesareans. The Partners in Crime logo and imagery were designed by Stuart Beisch. Partners in Crime is sponsored by Kobo, your favourite local bookshop, perfected.